Please be seated. Today the prophet Isaiah speaks about fasting. But fasting seems to have gone out of style. We just don't fast much anymore, at least not for religious purposes. A modern American fast, I guess, we would call dieting. But the book of Isaiah is talking about fasting. Chapter 58 is in the last section of this long book. This section was written after the Jews were allowed to come back, at least some of them, come back to Jerusalem from their exile in Babylon in the 6th century before Christ. After the temple had been destroyed and the Hebrew people had been banished from their land, Judaism had an identity crisis. The old temple sacrificial system collapsed when that holy site was lost and the priesthood to maintain it was scattered. If the Jewish people and the Jewish religion were to survive at this point, they had to reinvent Judaism. These late sections of Isaiah radically redefine the religion of Judaism and its practices. Instead of the old rituals of fasting and animal sacrifice, a new moral order emerges. The new fast is not about abstaining from food. It is rather a fast from injustice, from oppression, a shift from appeasing God with rituals to honoring and respecting our neighbors with ethical behavior. When reflecting on this reading from Isaiah and on the ways that human beings have oppressed and degraded each other over time, I was called to mind a book I've been reading, a fascinating book called The Hemmingses of Monticello by Annette Gordon Reed. This is the story of the second family, the African-American family of Thomas Jefferson. After Thomas Jefferson's wife, Martha, died, and while Jefferson was serving as the United States minister to France, he took up with a girl, Sally Hemings, who was apparently a beautiful teenage girl of about 16 years old. She was a slave girl owned by Jefferson and brought with him from Virginia to serve in his of the oligarchs, the ruling elite. God stands with the oppressed, with those carrying the heavy yoke. Isaiah cries out, "Is not this the fast that I choose? To loose the bonds of injustice, to undo the thongs of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke?" Even Angela Merkel, the German head of state, she knows something about oppression from its days in East Germany. I was fascinated that in light of the Egyptian situation, she was quoted using language from our baptismal covenant. She said the important thing is to respect the dignity of every human being. The Egyptian people have been oppressed by poverty, by lack of human rights, rights of free speech, free assembly, free press. And then, of course, the absolutely unspeakable, unthinkable injustice: they cut off their internet. They shut down Facebook. They turned off Twitter. Now, this call of God to stand with the oppressed and downtrodden people is not easy, especially when most of us here benefit from the status quo in the society. It's not easy, as Isaiah insists, to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house when you see the naked, to cover them. But this is God's will for us. And when we do these things, there is a promise. Then your light shall break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up quickly. Your vindicator shall go before you. The glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. Then you shall call, and I, the Lord, will answer. You shall cry for help, and I will say, here I am. So Jesus stood firmly on the shoulders of Isaiah. Jesus said, you are the light of the world. Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill. Justice. Justice is the fast God asks of us today.